Today, I am speaking about the 4 essential skills every emerging leader, first-time manager needs to have going into management. Now, the 4 skills I am talking about today are things that even people who are experienced leaders still struggle with in some shape or form. No one is perfect. There is no perfect recipe of skills you need to throw in here and there, and then you are this amazing leader. You're going to learn as you grow. However, you want to keep this in mind because it will definitely help you build your capacity, help make life easy for you, and it will also help you work well with your team in a way that you're not becoming the barrier to your team, but someone who is an obstacle remover. Okay, so anyways, if you are an emerging leader or you have folks who are new to management, stay tuned. Welcome to another episode on the Growth Leadership Cafe, where I talk about everything personal and organizational leadership for folks who are new to management, so the emerging leaders out there. So if you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'll say do so right now. Turn on that notification so you get that buzz every time I post a video, which is every week Tuesday, 8 o'clock Central Time. Moving on to the topic for today. Today I am talking about 4 essential skills that I feel like every first-time emerging leader needs to have. Now, everyone has their own perspective or the type of skills that you need to have. However, even the most experienced leaders still struggle with some of the most seemingly basic skills that people in management should technically have under their tool belt. So, before I get into it, I just want to preface by saying that the skills that you would learn, it's important that you assess yourself to figure out how you kind of exhibit certain types of behaviors or what you're more inclined to do. For emerging leaders and the clients that I work with, this is something that has also been very beneficial for their growth in management. So moving to the first skill is communication. Now, there are many facets to communication. There is either communication in writing, so your written communication, your verbal communication, but more so all of those nuances of how you speak, the words that you use, when you use those words, the tone of your voice, the tone of your emails. It's very important that you're mindful of all of this, and you're not always going to have it right. Nobody does. I personally think that there's still many ways that I could improve my communication. However, you are in a very interesting position as a junior manager. Okay, so that means your role is to communicate the leadership's vision into tasks that the team can work on. However, it's very important that your team also understands your goal, the big picture, the thing that you're working towards, that big outcome, because that helps them kind of really hone into what they need to do. All right, so your job is to kind of simplify the vision into small, measurable parts. So your role as a junior manager, you're communicating to upper management, you're also passing down information. So there's that upward, downward communication. There's also the side-to-side communication where you're communicating with your peers and you're communicating with different team leads of the other departments. So there's constant sharing of information going on. So you also need to be aware of what's going on, find the information that is useful for each person and passing that information onto the designated individuals. However, for your team, you want to pass information to them in a way that they understand what the goal is, the task is, and they have the tools and the resources necessary to complete that task. All right, so make sure that you find ways to start building those aspects of yourself. There's so many resources out there. You can take training courses. This is something that I personally teach in my coaching class. So if you feel like you need that extra support, feel free to send me an email and I will get right back to you. And when it comes to communication as well, another layer to that is, how do you communicate? Are you someone who is more so very aggressive in the way you speak? Are you more assertive? Are you passive aggressive? It's very important that you find out what those aspects of yourself are. There's so many personality test quizzes out there that you can try out, so feel free to just look online. There's some that are free, there's some others that are paid for. However, your communication style matters a lot because it determines how receptive people are going to be to you and your ability to really, in the sense of the word, communicate in a way that the target audience, the target person that you're speaking to, really understands what you're trying to say. The second skill I want to speak about is empathy. Now, what is empathy? Empathy means your ability to understand and be sensitive to people's feelings, thoughts, actions, experiences, whatever it is that you're going on and they've communicated to you. And so it is your ability to really connect with the people that you work with. This will make your life so much easier when you are able to understand what it is that interests them, what is it that drives them. But how do you learn those things? It's by actually spending time with them, taking that genuine interest in what it is that they do, the skills that they have, how you can leverage those within your workplace environment, but also help them build capacity and get that satisfaction from the work that they do. You don't want to be that boss who's just fixated and so focused on their outputs, on what it is that they produce, and forgetting that there is a human behind that output that is producing that work. There is a saying, according to Simon Sinek, that when you take care of the people you work with, they will take care of the work. All right, so be very mindful to spend time with the people that you work with. And that also comes with some level of emotional intelligence, right? Paying attention to the room, looking at expressions. What is the feeling in the room when you guys have a meeting? Do you feel like there's some tension in the air? Who is it coming from? And so when you're even addressing it, you're not addressing it from that accusatory, antagonistic perspective of, oh, I know this, so you're doing this, why are you doing this? You can obviously state your observation and ask them, how are you feeling? What is going on for you? As opposed to, why do you keep doing this? All right. So it's being mindful of the people in your environment and taking care of them. And when you have empathy towards the people that you work with, that would help you build connection. It would help you build mutual trust between you and those people. And you will have a team of people who are rallied around you that will go above and beyond to make sure that what needs to be done gets done just because you asked. The third skill I want to speak about is adaptability. So how flexible are you? Things are going to change. If you're working on a project and you have this perfect plan of what it is that you want to do, setbacks will happen, unanticipated issues will come up, things, external factors that you have no control over will happen. But how do you manage that? How do you navigate that in a way that you don't project your frustration on the team? How accommodating are you to your team's needs? If your team member calls you on the morning and says, Adesoa, I'm not able to come into work today. Something just came up with my family. There's an emergency. Are you gonna get upset because they need to be at work because they're getting paid to do this work? But life happens to everybody. So being able to accommodate that, okay, this changes will come up. What's the alternative? And you think about that when you do experience setbacks on your project or scheduling, someone doesn't show up, someone is sick, how do you manage that? All right, maybe finding coverage to cover someone who is sick, right? You don't just burn everything down and get so frustrated because one person didn't show up. The show has to go on, right? So it's being flexible to anticipate that these things will happen. So don't get so riled up when it does eventually happen. It's okay, what's the alternative? Think about what's the solution. Don't be so fixated on the problem and you dwell so much on that and forget that the job still needs to get done. When you do experience setbacks, it's important that you make time to think about what went wrong, and so you know that if you're going to take a different direction, you know what not to do in the future, right? But don't dwell on that. Don't sit in that. Think about, okay, let's think about what's the next step here. What's the next approach? How can we rectify this? How can we mitigate this? That should be the mindset, is knowing that setbacks will happen, issues will come up. It always does. It's how do you navigate and manage out of that situation? I have to say that being flexible and adaptable doesn't mean you don't have standards. You still want to set the tone for what the expectation is, but always know that there are always exceptions to the rule, right? And it's being able to accommodate it when those exceptions come up. All right, so it's not for you to just be like, oh, I'm flexible, my staff didn't come back to work today, so meh, No, it's not that. It's for them to know what the expectation is, know what the standard is, and then when they do communicate to you that for some reason I'm unable to meet this expectation, given the circumstances, you can accommodate it. But however, when you start to see that this unanticipated things have now become a norm, and this has become a thing with the staff that you're constantly doing this or calling in sick, then you want to observe that, okay, this is probably a pattern, this is a habit with this person, and in even troubleshooting that, it's, hey, I noticed, you've called in sick 10 times this month. What's going on? Is there any way we can help you? And give them the room to really share, because the truth is we only know 1% of the things that happen in our team's lives. All right, so it's very important that you come at it from a delicate position always, as opposed to trying to challenge them and tell them, well, you know the rules, so you need to follow the rules. Like, it's not always the case. And the fourth skill that is so essential to every emerging leader is delegation. Now, as a first-time manager, you're going to be put in that situation where things are getting thrown at you from all directions, from your team, from upper management. Things are just getting thrown to you, all right? But it's very important that you're able to sift through all of those things, figure out what absolutely needs your attention and what can go to someone else. As a first-time manager, it's very important that you're mindful of how much you take on, because it's very easy to get so overwhelmed and absorbed into the work, and every other aspect of your life starts to suffer. And you don't want that. You don't want to get so sucked into work and your life just essentially revolves around work. So make sure that you are making time to give things to other people. Figure out what needs to go to where, who needs to be responsible for what, talk to the team about it, figure out who can take on this task, and set the expectations if you need to set deadlines, all of that, but make sure that you're being very intentional about how much you take on and how far you're stretching yourself. Anyways, that's all I have to say on this. These 4 essential skills, just to give you a recap. 1 is communication, meaning that you need to know how to say things, when to say it, what words to use, your tone, your countenance, how you're projecting yourself, but also being able to communicate promptly and to who specifically, and being able to break down information properly. The second point is empathy. So being able to really be sensitive to your team's needs, and that means spending time with them and paying attention to what's really going on with them, as opposed to focusing so much on their outputs as opposed to the person behind the output. 3 is flexibility and adaptability. Things are going to come, things will change sometimes so abruptly. It's being able to go with the flow and find alternative solutions as opposed to dwelling so much on the problem or getting so riled up and frustrated and freezing. Okay, and the 4th point is delegation. So being able to determine what needs your attention, what needs you factor in it, and what can go to someone else. Thank you so much for listening today. If you did like what you heard today, I'd say give this video a like. Let me know that you appreciate the content coming out of this channel. And if you're not yet subscribed, I'll say do so right now. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.